Hey everybody, I hope this finds you well. My name is Luci and this is my very first episode of a series I'm titling Coffee with Luci. Why I'm calling it Coffee with Luci is because I want it to be just long enough for you to finish your cup of coffee in the morning or during your coffee break at work or your tea break if you're Kenyan. Or if you just got home in the evening and you're not quite sure what you're going to cook and you're trying to figure it out and you're standing at your kitchen counter drinking your cup of coffee or tea, it will just be long enough to get you through that transition. So why am I doing this? I have wanted to do this since I was 12. Let me start with that. And that's a story I'll be telling you about as we go along. But also, I have been receiving lots of requests to do something like this. And quite frankly, I just really want a chance to just talk to people. Because, well, I just have enough words that I just need to get them out. So this is going to be a platform not just for talking, teaching, but I really just want to use this wonderful gift that the Lord has given me for public speaking, for teaching, to reach people, to connect with people, to help people, and hopefully you learn from my journey, my mistakes, and I get to learn from you as well as you give me your feedback on each of the episodes. So the very first episode is titled "What's in Your Cup?" And those of you who know me know that I really like my coffee, and if there is anything I would really struggle to give up, it would be my coffee. But I am going to tell you about a season when I had to give up coffee for medical reasons and what I learned from that season when I had to switch to taking tea. A few months back, I wasn't well. I had a stomach bug. And when I went to the hospital, I was really throwing up badly. By the time I got to the hospital, I threw up at the reception. It was so embarrassing. But when I finally got tested, they discovered I had an infection. Turns out I had eaten something with mustard from my fridge, which had been there for longer than it ought to have been. It was expired. And so I got an infection. And because of how bad the infection was, I had to be admitted for a couple of days so that they could treat me with antibiotics. And even after that, I had to take drugs that required me to withdraw from using milk for a bit. So I had to switch to tea for that season. And this came at a time when I was really, really grappling with a difficult transition at work, and I'll tell you about that in a moment. And so as I had to switch my diet, one of the things I got to reflecting about is, what is this teaching me about my life generally? So I'll tell you what I learned about that season when I had to give up coffee, or at least taking milk with my coffee. And I'm going to then connect that with current season that I'm in and what I believe the Lord might be teaching me. I'm hoping by the end of it you'll understand why I'm asking what's in your cup, which is the name of this episode. So after a few days, weeks of just taking black tea because of my medical condition, I discovered that I was actually more energetic. I was less bloated because coffee does give you really bad gas. And combining that with milk, not always a good idea, especially if you don't have very good tolerance for lactose like I do. And so in that period when I had to withdraw from both coffee and milk, I discovered I was less bloated, I was more energetic, and I truly lost weight, which was something I didn't anticipate. Apparently, because of cutting down on all the milk, then all the extra pounds that I had been piling on because of the milk went away as well. And so I discovered that even though it wasn't something I would have chosen for myself, because I really like my coffee with my milk, I actually found a healthier way to live because of a situation I would not have planned, would not have anticipated. Quite frankly, if I had been asked about, I would not have chosen. And as 2020 transitioned into lockdowns, curfews, changes in the way we do things, it got me thinking about life broadly and about the things that we'd been forced to take on or change into, that if it were left up to us, we would not have done. So which brings me back to the transition that I was talking about at work. So just before COVID happened, I went through a difficult transition at work. I loved my job, I loved my role, and I thought I was really good at it. But because I struggled with a lot of opposition, and quite frankly, it drained my energy for the role itself, I chose to let go of the position after months of agonizing about it. And then, in typical melancholic, choleric thinking, if you don't know your personality, happy to give you resources around that as well, I then went into overdrive, thinking of all the ways that I could have done it differently, why I shouldn't have given up as quickly as I did, what am I going to do with all this time now, because in my typical perfectionist driven self, I'd spent a lot of time at work. And I took classes to try and figure out what my other giftings are. I spoke to lots of coaches trying to figure out how do I move forward, and nothing seemed to be working. I applied for lots of other jobs, got many rejections, but I got at least one interview, and that boosted my self-esteem for a bit. But by the end of the year, I still hadn't gotten something new. So 2021 rolls in, and I'm just like, this is not the plan. This is not how I wanted this to go. I'm stuck in a situation I really don't want to be in, and I don't know how to move forward, don't know how to plan. But as I began to read books on potential, in particular, I love Dr. Monroe's books, Understanding Your Potential, and my current read is The Burden of Freedom, which talks about our calling to exercise responsibility by stepping into the things that we dream about. It got me thinking that maybe not getting my prayers answered was a setup for me to try and figure out what do I have in my hand, or what do I have in my cup that I can use to move myself forward. And it takes me back to what I said in the beginning. From the age of 12, I've always wanted to do media work. But what I thought was media work then is very different from media work today, because whereas then we had traditional radio stations, now we have many more platforms that you can use to do media work, including podcasting and all manner of things that you can do now with media work. So, whereas my perfectionist self would say, wait until you figured out a script, you have proper equipment, you have the proper background music, you have a proper website, I thought in this season, the thing that I could use, the thing that I have in my cup, in my hand, is I have a gift. I have a gift for speaking. I have a recording device. I have friends who might be going through things, and these messages might encourage them. So how about starting with what I have? And who knows what would come out of it if I simply stepped out in faith. So this episode on what's in your cup is for me as much as I hope it is for you who's listening. What do you have that you wish you weren't stuck with, but if you changed how you looked at it, could be the very thing that leads to your freedom? I have always depended on people to validate me, to tell me that I'm good, to pay me for work that I do. But my greatest joy, my greatest fulfillment actually comes from using things that I already enjoy, and one of them being just talking. And the fact that I get to do media work in whatever form, whether as a voice actor or now as a teacher, brings me such fulfillment that no amount of money in the world could be used to quantify the joy that I feel when I do this. And so even though the path that I took would not be the one that I would have chosen, I would have wanted to be celebrated at work for the things that I did and the person that I was and how much of myself I invested in that space. The fact that that didn't work out for me the way I thought has freed me up to figure out what else do I have that I could use, and who knows what doors this could open. So this is my encouragement for today. What's in your cup? What do you have that is not what you would have chosen, but if you turned it around, could be the very thing that changes your life, could be the very thing that brings you fulfillment, could be the very thing that brings you joy. Let me know, send me a message, let me know what you think, let me know what you're working on, let me know what you have in your hand. Happy to also chat and help you figure out ways you could use what you already have in your hand. And I will see you next time on the next episode of Coffee with Lucy. Bye.